Hey there, band directors. It's Dwayne Huff with Band Leadership Seminars, Band Leadership Online. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to give you this as you're starting to select, to vet, to interview, and then train and develop your student leaders into being servant leaders, something that you could give to them to help them become more effective immediately as servant leadership. This comes from my band leadership online course and what I do in the live events. Obviously, I've got resources. If you want more about this, I can support you there. But let me share this with you because you can go and share this with them and teach them this concept, and you'll be amazed how quickly it unsticks and squashes some of the drama and the confusion and the chaos that goes on during rehearsals or between rehearsals or on the field, or whatever the case might be, right? And so the premise of this whole teach that I'm going to share with you right now, that then you can then share with your students, is this: as leaders, and you know this to be true, they may not understand it fully yet, but communication is key. And when you say that on the surface, people are like, okay, yeah, I get it. Communication is key, right? But come on, you know it. They're teenagers, right? And you're just thinking to yourself many times, I just wish they would communicate at all, right? I wish they'd get out of their phones and get off text and just actually have face-to-face conversations, and that's a beautiful thing about when you pull your leaders together and you teach them this, but not just your leaders, your band members as well, because if everybody understands the same concepts and they're able to operate from the same space, it builds team and community and strength and trust and bonds with everybody in your band program. But if your leaders get this and you demonstrate how this works for them, and you guys practice this concept that I'm going to share with you, the whole bottom line about this is communication, and in the spirit of over communicating, so that there's no assumptions. Assumptions aren't good or bad unless we act upon them without clarifying them. And you'll see this take shape as I share this with you today. So the concept I want to share with you that then you can go and share with them is something known as the Johari window. The Johari window. Here's how it came to be in 1950, or in the 1950s. There were two American psychologists. One was named Joe, one was named Harry. You can look it up, Johari window. And so they went Johari window. They were very creative in the way that they named, right? But they wanted to present a model of what happens whenever we communicate with another person or a group of people. And this dynamic plays out. You see it every day in your band, amongst you and your leaders, you and your band members, the leaders in the band members, and all 360. Even if you have a booster organization, this will come in as well. So Johari window is the concept and the principle that I'm going to share with you. So here's basically what it means. Anytime people are having a conversation, whether that's face-to-face, over the phone, over text, in any form, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, there's 4 key areas that communication or that conversation can land. And only one of them is ideal and where you want those conversations to land. And again, this speaks to servant leadership, simply because the better your student leaders get at doing this and understanding this and seeing this and navigating this, the more effective they become at leading their peers, the more effective they become at communication with each other, with you, with their parents, with the boosters, with staff, whatever the case might be. So let me pull it apart one piece at a time. You'll see right here that I have you and UX, and that simply means when we're having a conversation or a dialogue, there's things that you understand or that you don't understand. And then there's things that I understand or I don't understand. And I'll give you some examples here in a second. But let's say we end up in this first window right here where you understand it and I understand it. Let's say you and I are having a conversation. By the way, you can share this with your students, or you can just play this video for them and I will do it. I apologize. I think it got blurry here for a second. Right there it goes. It clears up. So here's the thing. So if we're having a conversation and there's things you're aware of, then things that you understand, and I also am aware of them or understand them, we're operating from an open window. An open window of communication. And ideally, that's where we want to be, because whenever we're operating from an open window of communication where I understand it, you understand, and everybody's clear on it, there's no guessing, there's no mystery, there's nothing hidden, right? So we're flowing. And that open communication is where we want to be, and open that window as big as we possibly can. And I'll show you how to do that here in a moment, right? But that's not the only window, because there's times when we're talking and having a conversation where there's things that you understand that I do not understand, or I don't know, right? And so I'll give you an example. We call that the blind window of communication. You know it, but I don't know it. You understand it, but I don't understand. I'll give you a funny example. Imagine that I was live in your band room and I'm, presenting, and we take a lunch break, and I come back, and for lunch I had salad, right? Trying to watch my health, trying to eat healthy. And I have this green leafy salad. Problem is that I didn't keep track of time. I end up in the band room in front of the kids, right? Or in front of you. And I go back into my teaching thing, and there's this big piece of green that is stuck right there. And all of a sudden the kids start going like this, or they're laughing and they're hitting each other. See, they see and they know, or that I have a piece of something in my teeth. I don't know that. I'm blind to it. Now think about it for a second. If you've ever been in that window where you're blind to something, or you don't understand something that the other people do, or you suspect there's something hidden or left out, that can create all kind of confusion. And it can start anywhere from confused to distrust to anticipation it can blow up very quickly. So we want to stay out of that blind window of communication as much as we possibly can. I'll tell you how to do that here in just a moment, right? But there's another window of communication. There's things that you don't know that I may know. And we call that concealed, right? And so things that you may not know that I know. My schedule coming up, you're not aware of that, but I am. What I teach in my online course and in my live events and all my other resources, I know it, but you don't know it. So it's concealed. Now it's blind to you, but it's concealed. Does that make sense? Right? And so there's another example. And here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. As we go through each one of these categories, workshop this with your students. So put them in groups and make them come up with different examples within the band program in their day-to-day and with their peers, examples that fall into each one of those categories. Break them up into groups, have them, flip chart it, or have them write it down on a piece of paper and come back to you, debrief it as a group, because it's better if they have to think through it and own it. And then if they come up with things that aren't quite right, you can guide and lead that discussion, right? So there's a concealed window, but there's one final window when I don't know it and you don't know it, or I'm not aware of it and you're not aware of it. That puts us in a window known as unknown, right? Any version of what the future holds, right? Because I'm not aware of it, you're not aware of it, but eventually we find out, or at least one of us does. And depending upon where that lands, we could either be in an open window, a concealed window, or a blind window, right? So I hope that makes sense, but here's the goal. In the spirit of over communicating and being better servant leaders and facilitating conversations that flow, so there's no mystery, there's no assumptions that aren't clarified before they're acted upon, there's no frustration, there's no mistrust, there's no anything that could go wrong. We have to be able to open that window as big as possible. And here's how we do it. We either ask or we tell. So if I'm in a position where I'm blind to something and I perceive that I don't understand or don't know, all I have to do is ask. Problem is, people and their egos, right? Don't want to appear that they don't understand, that they don't get it, that they're oblivious, that they're missing something. So many times they don't have the courage to just simply ask. And I would encourage you to invite your leaders. That's part of being a servant leader, is being able to say, you know what, I don't fully get this. Let me take a chance here. Let me take a risk here, put myself out there, be vulnerable, and simply ask. And that way that window opens bigger. Now, as student leaders, if they're holding on to information that you've given them that they can't divulge, I understand that, but there's certain things that they're aware of that if they could simply tell or open up or disclosure builds trust. Disclosing the right things builds trust, right? But if they can simply tell and help the other person to see, that window opens up. So if you perceive there's something that you don't understand, ask. If you perceive there's something that your peers are not getting or not privy to or not fully understanding, tell. And so many times with ego, we hold that back and we're not willing to tell, or we think we can't, or we think it's obvious that it should be something people understand, right? So the Johari window, if you want to open that window wide, ask and tell, right? And if you perceive as a leader that somebody's missing something, tell them. If there's something you perceive that you don't fully understand, ask, put the ego aside, lower the walls, be vulnerable, and ask. I hope that makes sense. If you need any clarification, feel free to either drop a comment if there's a space here below the video, or hit reply to the email that this may have come through. Stay tuned. I'll tee up more of these conversations that you can have with your student leaders, because as we face a very short runway to whenever you're actually going to be in marching band season and band camp and be preparing for it, it's going to be very quick. So I'll keep feeding this to you. And if there's anything I can do in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. Obviously, I do live seminars, either one-day events or multi-day events on site. So if that's you, I'll put a link that you can jump on my calendar. We can have a quick conversation, see if that's a good fit. Also, my virtual seminars have been huge over the last couple of years, for obvious reasons. And then there's my Band Leadership Online course. If I can support you with any one of those, don't hesitate to reach out. The best way to do it, to be honest with you, is simply to shoot me an email and let me know what budget you're working with this year. And I can tell you which program would fit within your budget, so we don't have to have a weird, awkward conversation about money and budget and all that kind of stuff. I've got a program for everybody. I hope I can support you, but hit reply and let me know, or drop a comment and let me know, what else would you like me to address when it comes to helping your leaders become better servant leaders. So until we talk again, I hope that served. And you remember, the whole premise of the Band Leadership Seminars brand is that you can inspire superior performance. You just have to lead as a servant and open that window of communication. Have a great day. Talk soon. Bye-bye.